Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here. I'm here today with the Donner DDA-35 and the Donner DDA-80. Now, DDA is Donner Drum Amp for both of these, and the number 35 and 80 is how much watts they have. This is also a keyboard amp, so both of these are drum and keyboard amps according to Donner, and they do a great job. Now, if you watched a while back, I did a review of the DDA-35 and it was very impressive. But now we're going to compare it to the DDA-80. And there's a lot more differences between these two than just wattage. There's 45 watts of difference between these two, from 35 to 80 watts. So let's compare the two. And again, I am using the same kind of instruments that I used when I compared this against the Roland KC110. And that's a really great video. I highly recommend you go ahead and watch that video because I was blown away between the two of them. That was really good. Now, the weight between the 35 and the 80 is 17.6 pounds on the 35 and 20.9 pounds on the 80. That's not much of a difference. That's like 3.3 pounds. The wattage, of course, 35 watts and 80 watts. Now the drivers on both of these have 8-inch woofers. Now the difference comes when we go to the tweeters. This has a 2.5-inch tweeter. This one, the 80, actually has a horn. How cool is that? The horn is so much better when it comes to transients and all kinds of other stuff because it doesn't have that recovery time of an actual speaker moving the tone back and forth. There's no recovery time with that. So this is actually more accurate. It's also much more stable and it can project a little bit better into the audience. Now the orientation on these, this one is fixed the way you see it right here. It's kind of tilted upward. This one actually is tiltable. Right now I have it set so that it's matching this one, but you can actually have it oriented straight as well. So for the sake of this video, we want to keep both of these at the same orientation just to be fair, because the microphones are actually pointing right between the middle of these two so we can get an accurate picture of what each one of these sound like. The price, as of this video, $199 for the DDA-35 and just $50 more for the DDA-80. So you get 45 watts more, 35 as opposed to 80, and you get some other features as well that we're going to go into in a minute. Now, both of these have EQ controls, which is very important if you want to control the tone. And this one has a low, mid, and high EQ, which is really great. And if you look at my video where I did this comparing against the Roland KC110, it only had 2 EQ settings, low and high. So this is an improvement from that. And when you step up to the DDA-80, you have 4 EQ controls. How cool is that? So you got low, and for mid, you've got mid-low, and you've got mid-high, and then you've got high. So you can really fine-tune where it is that you want to be with this. As for Bluetooth, they both have unique Bluetooth features here. They both have a Bluetooth multifunction knob here where you can play a stream from your MP3 player or any other streaming service. And basically, with that knob, you can control volume, you can pause it, you can go to the next track, you can go to the previous track, or you can increase or decrease the volume. How cool is that? I wish more PAs had that kind of feature. That is so unique and it is so good to have. Now let's go through the front panels on each of these. On the DDA-35, the front panel consists of input 1, then you have a mic line switch, and then input 2. Then input 1 gain, input 2 gain, EQ low, mid, and high, 1/8 inch TRS aux in, gain for aux, 1/8 inch TRS headphone jack, and a Bluetooth multifunction knob that I just described. Now, the problem with that is on inputs 1 and 2, you have to control the inputs individually on both of those. So you don't have a master volume control like you did on the KC-110 from Roland. You have to control each one of these individually. Now we go to the front panel, the DDA-80, and what we have is input 1 and the gain control for that, input 2 and the gain control for that. You have Bluetooth multifunction knob that I just covered. You have Bluetooth volume. Then you have the 4 EQ settings, EQ low, EQ mid-low, EQ mid-high, and EQ high. Then you have the 1/8 inch TRS headphone jack, a limiter switch, which is really cool. What a limiter does, if you have too much volume and it's going to clip, it's going to cut it off to prevent clipping. That is really cool to have, and I can't stress how important that is. Then you have a DI out, and then you have the power indicator light. And on the back panel, on the 35, you've got the power on off, of course, and the 1/4 inch DI jack, whereas on the 80, you also have the power on off, but you also have the DC input from the AC adapter, just like you do on the 35. So enough talk about both of these. Now let's see what they sound like, because that's the bottom line, and that's going to be the most important for you. So let's start out with the 80, all right? And what we're going to be using for the instruments on this to be amplified is the Nord Piano 5, which is one of the best digital pianos in the world, as well as the BeatBuddy. And that's also a highly respected, highly rated drum system here. So let's start out with the Nord. We're going to do with the White Grand, which is a Steinway B. Really phenomenal sounding. Let's start out with the DDA-80 and see what that sounds like. Let's try the same thing with the 35. Okay, so hopefully you can tell the difference between the two. I loved the 35 when I reviewed this against the Roland KC-110, but now against the 80, we are talking different things. Now, the 80 actually has a horn, as I mentioned before, that changes things. So try and listen to the high end again with the horn. And let's go back to the 35. Now, the horn is meant more for transients and highs and stuff like that, so it is perfect for drums. So let's try it again, this time using a drum machine, the BeatBuddy. We're going to start out with the 80, okay? All right, let's try it again with the 35. Okay, let's try with both of them. We're going to start out with the 80 again. And let's try again with the 35. All right, so hopefully you notice the difference between the two. And now I want to try something completely different. We're going to switch over to the outputs only from both of these so that you can see what they were originally meant to sound like. No microphones. We're going completely from the outputs alone. All right, so now you've heard everything, and hopefully you can form your own opinion between the two of these, but I can tell you both of these are excellent. And compared to the Roland, when you've got over $400 for the KC-110 as opposed to these two, I mean, really, these sound fantastic. Now, the Roland may be a keyboard amplifier and it sounds really good for keyboards, but when you add drums for both of these, I think the Donner is the way to go. And it may not be the same kind of big, huge, humongous brand that Roland is, but it really is up there as far as sound is concerned. And I love the sound from both of those. So, you be the judge. So here we go again. We're going to start out again with the DD-80, and we're going to switch to the DDA-35, and then we're going to switch back to what it's supposed to sound like. All right, so here we go. So I think you have enough here to make judgments on your own. I really love all three amplifiers, if you include the Roland KC110 and these two. But when it comes to both of these, that horn is really phenomenal on this. Plus, you get the extra 45 watts with this, and it's only $50 more. But when you have this, this also has, as line one, you have a switchable mic line input, which is really nice to have. So if you're a singer, you can hook up your microphone to that and your instrument to line two. As far as this one goes, it is really good for hooking up, like I just did, a keyboard and a drum at the same time. So you be the judge. And I hope this video has been very helpful for you. So Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.